It was a rainy Thursday morning, the kind of rain that seemed to pull the world into silence. Lily stood at the kitchen counter, watching raindrops race each other down the window. Her friend Sarah was leaving for a week-long business trip, and the house felt suddenly too big, too quiet. The usual buzz of laughter and small talks was gone, leaving a space that felt strangely hollow. Sarah bustled around, checking her bag one last time. "Don't forget to water the plants, Mark," she said, smiling at her husband. Mark nodded, holding her suitcase briefly so she could zip it closed. His smile seemed ordinary at first, easy and reassuring, but there was a flicker in his eyes, a hesitation that Lily noticed immediately. It was subtle, almost unnoticeable, yet it left a small, uneasy pit in her stomach. "Don't burn the kitchen down while I'm gone," Sarah joked, giving Mark a quick peck on the cheek. Her tone was light, but there was a hint of worry in her voice. Mark waved, leaning casually against the doorframe, a faint smile on his lips, but the warmth seemed off somehow, distant. As Sarah left, the door closing behind her sounded louder than expected, and the house felt empty in an instant. Lily stayed behind, helping Mark carry in the last of the groceries Sarah had packed. He was quiet, polite, but every movement seemed a little too deliberate. As he took the last bag from her, his fingers brushed hers briefly. His eyes met hers, and the look was different from the usual friendly glances she was used to. "Are you sure you're okay alone?" he asked, voice soft but strangely loaded. Lily shrugged, trying to ignore the strange feeling crawling up her spine. The morning passed slowly. Lily moved around the kitchen, unpacking groceries and tidying counters, but she kept glancing at Mark. He moved from the living room to the hallway, occasionally pausing to look out the window at the rain. He hummed quietly, a tune she didn't recognize. Everything seemed normal, yet not normal at all. Something in the way he leaned against the wall, the way his hands rested on the counter, made her uneasy. By afternoon, the tension had grown. Mark busied himself in the kitchen, chopping vegetables, washing dishes, doing small tasks with excessive care. Every now and then, he would stop, freeze, and stare into the distance. Lily tried to make conversation. "Do you want some tea?" she asked. He shook his head without looking at her. His eyes stayed fixed on the rain outside the window. The silence between them wasn't comfortable. It was charged, heavy, full of unspoken thoughts. When Lily asked if he wanted dinner, he waved her off, muttering something about finishing some work. She noticed how he avoided eye contact, how his smile didn't reach his eyes. The Mark she knew, friendly, warm, easygoing, felt replaced by someone else, someone quiet and tense. She moved around the living room, pretending to clean, but she couldn't shake the sense that something was off. Evening came, the rain slowing to a drizzle, but the tension inside the house had not eased. Lily prepared herself a small snack and sat near the window, watching the dark clouds reflect off the wet pavement. Mark sat across the room, hunched slightly, his face shadowed by the soft glow of the lamp. He was humming again, softly, a tune that felt unfamiliar and a little haunting. Every now and then, he paused and stared blankly at the wall, lost in thought. Lily's concern grew. She approached him cautiously. "Mark, are you sure you're okay?" she asked. He looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, almost too quickly, a smile appeared. "I'm fine," he said. The words were casual, but the tone held a strange, restless edge, like someone trying too hard to hide something. She turned to leave, but he called her back. "It's strange when Sarah's not here," he said, voice low, almost a whisper. He didn't finish the sentence, leaving it hanging in the air like smoke. Lily's heart thudded. That simple statement felt weighty, mysterious, and slightly unsettling. She felt a mix of curiosity and caution. Something had shifted in Mark, and she didn't know if she should be worried or just wait and watch. Night fell, and the rain had stopped. The house felt quieter now, emptier. Lily was in the living room, scrolling through her phone, but she kept stealing glances at Mark. He was upstairs, she thought, probably pacing or lost in thought. But moments later, she heard soft footsteps, slow and deliberate. Her stomach tightened. Curiosity got the better of her, and she went upstairs quietly. Mark was there, near the window, staring out into the darkened yard. His face was calm, but his eyes betrayed a storm of emotion. "I don't know why, but it feels different without her," he said, almost to himself. The words were casual, yet the tone carried an unfamiliar weight. Lily felt an odd mix of sadness and tension. She knew this wasn't just boredom or loneliness. Something deeper was brewing. She didn't want to intrude, so she stepped back, but she couldn't ignore the strange rhythm of the house anymore. The quiet creaks of the floorboards, the soft rustling of curtains in the gentle breeze, the distant sound of water dripping from the eaves. All of it felt amplified, as if the house itself was aware of the shift in energy. Lily sensed that the ordinary life she had taken for granted was subtly changing, and Mark was at the center of it. She returned to her spot near the window, heart still tight with unease. Even as she tried to focus on a book, the words blurred. Her mind kept returning to Mark's behavior, to the strange pause in his voice, to the sudden weight of the house without Sarah. She realized, with a mixture of dread and fascination, that the week ahead might reveal something she had never expected. Lily took a deep breath, telling herself to stay calm. Maybe she was overthinking. Maybe Mark was just lonely or anxious. But the unease lingered, a persistent shadow at the edge of her thoughts. The house, the rain, the silence, they all felt like a prelude to something unknown, something that could change everything in the coming days. The clock ticked toward 10. Lily went upstairs to check one last time before bed. She found Mark in the hallway, moving slowly, almost as if pacing with purpose. He noticed her and gave a small smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. The tension in the air was almost tangible. Lily wanted to ask him if he was okay again, but she stopped herself. The words felt inadequate. She realized that this week, while Sarah was away, might bring truths to light, truths she wasn't sure she was ready for. And as she lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, she knew one thing for certain: Mark was different, and whatever was simmering beneath the surface was just beginning. The ordinary rhythm of their lives had shifted, quietly but irrevocably, and Lily couldn't shake the feeling that she was standing on the edge of something she didn't yet understand. The next morning, the house felt unusually quiet. Lily woke early, the soft sunlight barely touching the kitchen floor. She expected to see Mark moving around, humming or making coffee, but the kitchen was empty. A note on the counter read, "Out early, back soon." Something about it felt off. Mark rarely left without saying goodbye properly. Lily's stomach tightened. She couldn't explain why, but a sense of unease crept over her. She tried to distract herself, tidying the kitchen and organizing groceries, but every small noise made her jump. By late morning, Mark returned. He was carrying a briefcase, wearing his usual crisp shirt, but his movements were careful, deliberate. He didn't smile when he saw her. Instead, he nodded. "Morning," he said. That single word felt different, colder, less familiar. Lily tried to brush it off, but the tension in the room was growing. Lily decided to ask about his unusual behavior. "Mark, are you okay? You've been acting strange since Sarah left." She kept her voice casual, but her heart pounded. Mark paused, as if weighing his words. "I'm fine, just adjusting." He didn't elaborate, and the hesitation in his voice only made Lily more suspicious. Something was happening under the surface, something he wasn't telling her. Throughout the day, Mark moved through the house in odd patterns. He cleaned, organized, and sometimes just stood by the window, staring outside for long stretches. Every now and then, he muttered things under his breath, fragments of sentences, whispers of thoughts that didn't make sense. Lily tried to ignore it, telling herself he might just be anxious without Sarah, but deep down, she knew this wasn't simple anxiety. That evening, Lily made dinner. She set the table and called Mark to eat, but he didn't respond immediately. When he finally came, he carried a faint tension in his posture. His smile was polite but forced, a mask that didn't quite fit. He barely touched the food, eating slowly, lost in thought. Lily tried to engage him in conversation, asking about his day, small questions about the errands he ran, the groceries he unpacked, but he responded with short answers. Each response felt measured, like he was careful not to reveal too much. The room felt heavier with every passing minute, and Lily realized she couldn't ignore the strange shift in him any longer. After dinner, Mark moved to the living room. He picked up a book but didn't read. Instead, he stared at the pages, his mind somewhere else entirely. Lily sat on the sofa, watching him. "Mark," she said softly, "you can tell me if something's bothering you. I'm here." He looked up briefly, and for a moment, she thought he might open up, but then his eyes shifted away. "It's nothing," he said quickly, almost defensively. Lily felt a pang of worry. His words didn't match the way he carried himself, the restlessness in his movements, the subtle tension in his shoulders. As night fell, Lily decided to head to her room. She tried to ignore the feeling of being watched, but Mark's pacing upstairs made it impossible. Every soft creak of the floorboards sent shivers down her spine. She knew she should sleep, but curiosity and concern kept her awake. Around 11 p.m., she heard him speak softly, almost to himself. "I can't believe she's gone for a whole week." The words were casual, but there was an intensity behind them that made Lily's stomach twist. She couldn't tell if he was lonely, frustrated, or something else entirely. She crept upstairs, peeking around the corner. Mark was standing by the window, hands in his pockets, staring at the dark street outside. His face was calm, but his eyes seemed to burn with thought. Lily's heart raced. She wanted to ask him what was wrong, but a part of her hesitated. Whatever it was private. Mark turned suddenly, sensing her presence. "You shouldn't be up," he said softly, but his voice didn't carry anger, just a strange urgency. Lily swallowed, stepping closer. "I couldn't sleep. Are you all right?" He shook his head slightly, almost imperceptibly. "I don't know. It's just different without her." His words hung in the air, heavy and unresolved. Lily felt a chill. The ordinary rhythm of the house had changed, and Mark was at the center of it. Hours passed. Lily eventually returned to her room, but sleep wouldn't come. She kept replaying his words, his pauses, the subtle restlessness she couldn't define. Something had shifted in Mark, something she couldn't ignore. And the more she thought about it, the more she realized that this week, with Sarah away, might reveal truths she wasn't prepared to face. As midnight approached, she heard him moving again, soft steps on the carpet, quiet whispers she couldn't understand. The house was still, but every sound felt amplified. Lily's curiosity battled with her fear. Each step she took, bringing her closer to understanding the change in Mark, or maybe deeper into confusion. And as she stared at the ceiling, wide awake, she knew one thing for certain: the ordinary, comfortable life she had known had shifted. Mark was acting differently, and whatever was happening inside him wasn't just temporary. Lily felt a knot in her chest, a mixture of worry and anticipation, knowing that the days ahead would test her patience, her understanding, and her trust. The quiet tick of the clock sounded louder than usual, each second stretching into a moment filled with suspense. Lily realized that the week ahead wasn't just about Sarah being away. It was about uncovering the unseen layers of Mark, layers that could surprise her in ways she didn't yet imagine. The following morning, Lily woke to sunlight spilling through the curtains. She expected a quiet house, maybe Mark reading his newspaper or sipping coffee, but the living room was empty. She frowned, glancing around. Mark wasn't anywhere in sight. A faint sound drew her to the kitchen. Mark was there, standing silently by the counter, staring at the coffee machine. His hands didn't move. He just watched. Lily's heart skipped. It wasn't unusual for him to be lost in thought, but something in his stillness felt different, tense, charged. "Good morning," she said softly, trying to mask her concern. Mark didn't answer right away. When he finally looked at her, his eyes lingered too long, intense and unreadable. "Morning," he muttered, voice low, like he was waking from a dream that left him unsettled. Lily poured herself tea, keeping an eye on him. "Did you sleep well?" she asked. He nodded, but the gesture felt automatic, hollow. There was a distance in his expression that made her uneasy. He moved slowly, deliberately, and every action seemed measured, calculated, unlike the Mark she knew. Breakfast passed in silence. Mark ate, but barely tasted the food. He barely spoke. When Lily tried to start a conversation, he offered short, clipped replies. The unease was palpable, filling every corner of the kitchen. Lily felt like she was walking on fragile glass, careful not to provoke, careful not to push. By late morning, he went upstairs with a small stack of papers. Lily couldn't see what he was doing, but she heard the faint rustle of pages and occasional quiet murmurs. Curiosity gnawed at her, but she stayed downstairs, pretending to fold laundry while listening. Hours passed. Lunch came and went. Mark didn't emerge. Lily's concern grew. She tried to focus on chores, but every noise made her flinch. The house, usually comforting, now felt like a stage where something unseen was unfolding. In the afternoon, she finally went upstairs. Mark was in the study, sitting at his desk, papers scattered around him. He looked up, startled to see her. "Oh, I didn't hear you," he said. His voice casual, but his eyes betrayed something else. Restlessness, unease, maybe even fear. "Are you okay?" Lily asked, stepping closer. "You've been acting different since Sarah left. I just want to help if something's wrong." She kept her tone gentle, careful. Mark sighed, leaning back in his chair. "I don't know," he admitted finally. "It feels strange, quiet, but also heavy. I can't explain it." His hands trembled slightly as he picked up a pen. He stared at the paper, then set it down again. Lily's heart ached at the vulnerability he rarely showed. They stayed like that for a while, neither speaking. Lily sensed that Mark was struggling, caught between wanting to open up and holding something back. She wanted to reach out, to ask the questions he wouldn't answer, but something told her to wait. Evening came, and the house grew darker, the golden light fading. Mark moved to the living room, picking up a small book, but not opening it. Lily watched him quietly, feeling a mixture of concern and fascination. Every small movement he made seemed layered, full of hidden emotion. "Mark," she began, but he held up a hand, stopping her mid-sentence. "Not now," he said softly, almost pleading. She nodded, retreating slightly, sensing that he needed space. But the tension in the room didn't ease, it thickened. Night arrived. Lily lay in bed, listening to the quiet house. She heard him moving upstairs, pacing again, soft footsteps echoing through the rooms. Then she heard a low murmur, words she couldn't quite catch. Her curiosity pulled her from her bed, and she crept to the staircase. Mark was at the window again, staring into the night. The moonlight caught his face, highlighting a sharpness she had never seen before. He muttered something under his breath, then froze, as if sensing her presence. "You shouldn't be here," he said softly, though not angrily. There was urgency in his tone, a strange weight that made Lily's heart pound. "I couldn't sleep," she whispered. "I'm worried about you. You're acting different." Her voice was calm, steady, but full of emotion. He turned to face her fully. For a moment, the mask fell, and she saw the raw tension in his eyes. "It's hard to explain," he said, almost to himself. "It's not just Sarah being gone. It's like something inside me is shifting." His words trembled, and Lily felt the depth of his struggle. They stayed like that, looking at each other. the silence between them louder than any conversation. Lily realized that this week wouldn't just test Mark, it would test her too. She had to understand, to stay patient, to watch carefully. Whatever was happening inside him was fragile, delicate, and she couldn't push too hard or it might break. Hours later, Lily returned to her room, lying awake as the clock ticked past midnight. She replayed every moment, every glance, every pause. Mark's behavior was changing, subtly but unmistakably, and she didn't yet understand why. The ordinary house, the familiar routines, even the comforting presence of walls and furniture, all of it felt different now. She knew one thing for sure. The week ahead would reveal secrets, truths hidden in plain sight. And when those truths came to light, nothing would feel quite the same again. The next morning, the house felt heavier than usual. Lily woke to sunlight filtering through the curtains, but the quiet didn't feel peaceful. It felt tense, almost expectant. Mark was already up, moving around silently. His steps were careful, precise, as if he was trying not to disturb the fragile rhythm of the house. "Morning," Lily said softly, trying to keep her voice calm. Mark didn't look at her immediately. He kept his gaze fixed on the floor, moving slowly toward the kitchen. When he finally spoke, his voice was flat, controlled. "Morning." They ate breakfast in silence. Lily tried small talk, asking about his plans for the day, mentioning chores, even talking about Sarah's upcoming return, but Mark gave only minimal responses. Each answer felt measured, deliberate, like he was hiding something she couldn't yet see. After breakfast, Mark retreated to the study. Lily followed after a while, pretending to look for something, but really to keep an eye on him. He was sitting at the desk, hands folded, staring at a blank sheet of paper. His jaw was tense, his eyes shadowed. The Mark she knew, warm, casual, easygoing, was nowhere to be seen. "Mark, you can tell me if something's bothering you," Lily said gently. "I want to help." He shook his head slowly. "It's not that simple," he whispered. "It's not Sarah. It's me. Or maybe us. I don't know. I just feel different." His words were heavy, carrying an emotion Lily had never heard from him before. She felt a pang of worry. This was deeper than simple loneliness or stress. The hours passed slowly. Mark moved through the house in silence, sometimes pausing to stare out the window, sometimes just sitting quietly. Lily tried to keep busy, but every glance toward him reminded her that something was shifting inside him. She could see it in his eyes, in the small hesitations, in the way he spoke. By late afternoon, the unease in the house had grown. Lily decided to confront him gently. "Mark, I know you're struggling with something. You don't have to face it alone. I'm here." He turned to her then, a sudden intensity in his gaze that made her stop. "I don't know if I should. I don't want to make things complicated." His voice trembled slightly. Lily took a step closer, sensing both his fear and his vulnerability. "Mark, sometimes it's okay to feel complicated," she said softly. "You don't have to pretend everything is fine." For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. The quiet of the house pressed against them, every sound amplified. The ticking clock, the faint hum of the refrigerator, even the rustling of leaves outside. Lily realized that the week without Sarah had uncovered layers in Mark she had never seen before, layers that were raw, vulnerable, and intensely human. Evening arrived, and the sky outside darkened with the first hints of night. Lily made dinner, setting the table carefully. Mark didn't join her immediately. When he finally appeared, he seemed restless, unsure. He didn't speak, just sat, his hands folded in front of him. Dinner was quiet. Lily tried to bring light conversation, mentioning small memories with Sarah, funny incidents from the past, anything to ease the tension. Mark listened but didn't respond much. His eyes were distant, yet focused. Lily sensed a storm behind them, a wave of emotion he was trying to contain. Later that night, Lily went upstairs, pretending to check on a book she had left on the shelf. She heard soft footsteps in the hallway. Mark was pacing again, a ritual that seemed to grow with each passing day. She stopped outside the door, listening. "I can't. I don't know how to handle this," Mark whispered, his voice low, almost broken. Lily's heart ached. She had never heard him sound like that. The tension, the confusion, the unspoken longing, it all collided in that quiet moment. She knocked lightly. "Mark?" she asked softly. He stopped pacing and looked toward the door. "I didn't hear you," he said, though his voice lacked its usual calm. "I can see that something is troubling you," Lily said gently. "You don't have to face it alone." He hesitated, then stepped toward her. His shoulders slumped slightly, a small surrender to the weight he had been carrying all week. "I don't know what's happening," he admitted. "I feel lost. Everything seems different without her. But it's not just that. I can't explain it." Lily moved closer, placing a reassuring hand on his arm. "Mark, it's okay. We'll figure this out together. You're not alone." For the first time all day, he seemed to exhale, a subtle shift in his posture that spoke volumes. Lily realized that the week without Sarah had forced him to confront something he had never faced before. Emotions he didn't fully understand, a vulnerability he had kept hidden. Hours later, as Lily returned to her room, she felt a mixture of relief and curiosity. The tension in the house had eased slightly, but she knew it wasn't over. There were still questions to answer, truths to uncover, and a week left to reveal what had been buried beneath the surface of Mark's calm exterior. And as she lay awake that night, listening to the quiet rhythm of the house, she couldn't shake the feeling that the coming days would change everything. Her perception of Mark, their friendship, and the hidden emotions that had begun to surface. The next morning, Lily woke to a quiet house again, but something felt lighter. The tension that had filled the rooms all week seemed softened, though not gone. She got up, stretched, and went to the kitchen, hoping to catch Mark before he disappeared into another silent day. He was already there, making coffee. This time, his movements were calmer, more natural. He looked up as she entered and offered a small smile, not forced, not tense, just genuine. Lily felt a spark of hope. Maybe this week wasn't just about confusion and unease, it was about understanding and growth. "Morning," she said softly. "Morning," he replied, his tone steady yet thoughtful. Lily noticed he lingered on the words, almost as if testing their meaning. Breakfast was quiet but comfortable. For the first time all week, they ate without tension pressing down on the room. Lily dared a small question. "Mark, are you feeling better today?" He paused, thinking. "A little," he admitted. "I've been processing a lot. Sarah being away made me realize how much I rely on her, and maybe how much I've been ignoring other parts of myself." His voice was calm, reflective, and Lily felt her heart soften. She smiled gently. "It's normal to feel that way. Absence makes us notice things we usually take for granted." He nodded, eyes thoughtful. "I didn't realize how much I kept inside. I was restless, uneasy. I couldn't understand it myself. But now, talking to you, noticing these feelings, it helps." The day passed more smoothly. Mark moved through the house without the tense hesitation of previous days. He spoke, laughed lightly, and even shared a few small jokes with Lily. The house, once heavy with quiet unease, felt warmer, brighter, like it had exhaled after a long week of holding its breath. In the afternoon, Lily found him sitting by the window, gazing outside. The rain had returned, soft and steady, tapping against the glass. She sat beside him, shoulders brushing lightly. Neither spoke for a few moments, simply enjoying the quiet companionship. Finally, Mark spoke. "I've realized something this week. Sarah means so much to me, and maybe I've never fully expressed it. Being alone with my thoughts, it opened my eyes." Lily nodded. It's easy to forget what's important until it's not right in front of us. He turned toward her, a sincere look in his eyes. Thank you, Lily, for listening, for understanding, for not judging me. Her heart swelled with warmth. You don't have to thank me. Friends are meant to be here in moments like this. As evening approached, Mark and Lily continued to talk quietly, sharing thoughts, feelings, and reflections from the week. The tension that had clouded their interactions was gone, replaced by a deeper understanding, a recognition of vulnerability, friendship, and trust. Later, when Sarah called from her trip, Mark's voice was calm, warm, and full of life. Lily overheard him tell her softly how much he missed her, how he had realized things he had never said. There was honesty, openness, and a new depth to his words. Lily smiled, knowing that the week had transformed him, not through drama, but through quiet reflection and the support of someone who cared. That night, as the house settled into peaceful silence, Lily lay in her bed with a sense of fulfillment. The strange behavior, the tension, the unease, it had all led to clarity, understanding, and growth. Mark had faced his emotions, embraced vulnerability, and emerged more grounded, more present. And as she drifted to sleep, she knew that this week, though unusual and tense, had strengthened bonds, not just between friends, but within the hearts of those involved. The house no longer felt heavy. It felt alive, filled with possibility, care, and a quiet, enduring warmth. The next morning, when Sarah returned, the reunion was gentle, joyful, and full of relief. Mark greeted her with open warmth, expressing love and appreciation he had not fully voiced before. Lily watched from the side, a small smile on her lips, proud of the transformation she had witnessed. It was a week that began with unease and tension, yet ended with understanding, honesty, and emotional clarity. The quiet moments, the conversations, the shared presence, they had revealed what mattered most: honesty, friendship, love, and the courage to face hidden emotions. The house, once filled with quiet anxiety, now hummed with peace. And Lily knew that sometimes a little distance, a small absence, or a week of unexpected change could reveal the depths of the heart in ways no one anticipated. The story concludes with emotional resolution, highlighting personal growth, trust, and heartfelt connection. Short paragraphs, simple language, and dramatic yet clean narration make it perfect for YouTube storytelling.